Last week, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that non-farm jobs fell by 92,000 for the month, raising new questions about the strength of the labor market. What's behind the rise in job losses and which industries are being hit the hardest? And how much are factors like artificial intelligence, tariffs under President Trump, and the murky outlook on interest rates shaping the job market right now? Joining us to break it all down is Dr. Daniel Hamermesh, Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of Texas and an expert on labor markets and unemployment. Dr. Hamermesh, welcome to Hello Houston.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm assuming it's way too early in the conflict with Iran to factor that into job losses. In fact, that would almost
certainly is.
Yeah, be job gains, right?
It just started, but this week's survey or that next week's survey is about this week. And if there is any effect early on, we'll see that when the numbers come out on April, I think, 3rd. So we'll know about that in a couple of weeks.
So, Dr. Hamermesh, then put this report in context for us. How unusual is a drop of 92,000 jobs in a single month? Is this a warning sign, or is this simply just a normal fluctuation?
It's hard to tell whether it's a normal fluctuation or not. I think I don't pay too much attention to 1 month changes. But if you compare February 26 to February 25, both in numbers based on employers reporting employment and on people saying whether they're employed, there's been no change in employment at all in a year. And that really is unusual. I mean, we should be having about 1.5 million extra jobs since February 25. We've had none.
Well, that's sort of alarming to hear you say it like that. Why haven't we?
I knew you were going to ask why. Well, first of all, I mean, it's not a cause, but it's the prior symptom. The number of people at work or looking for work, the labor force hasn't grown at all. In fact, the male labor force has gone down, women's gone up by a little bit. And therefore, the number of jobs per person has gone down. People either think they can't get jobs or more likely they want to take it easier now, which doesn't bother me as much.
Okay, take me back a little bit. And my confusion in all of this is that we came out of the pandemic where so many jobs seemed to be lost. So every time they talked about job gains, in my mind, it was jobs were being refilled where people had left them. So is there a difference in these numbers? And when you look at things like job creation, is that the same as employment?
No, job creation is not the same as employment. And we have a survey showing the number of new hires. There's no question, number of new hires still quite high, but it's below where it was 2 years ago. So it's a combination of both relative lack of new job creation and people just not seeming to be as interested in working as they had been, or at least working at the jobs that are now available.
Do you think baby boomers have something to do with that?
We always want to blame things on baby boomers.
Well, I'm one of them, so I'm shouldering it with you, sir.
I'm not one. I'm too old for that. My feeling is that at this point, baby boomers are 60, the youngest would be 62. So I don't think we can say that this is that much caused by baby boomers. We're talking about subsequent generation, people who today is in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, not baby boomers, no.
Well, just something like, I mean, if you're an influencer, if you're a TikTok person, if you're trying to make your living online, are you counted? Who would count you? You're sort of self-employed.
But we count self-employed in the household survey, and if you tell you're working at least 1 hour for pay, at least 1 hour, you'll be counted as employed.
All right.
So yeah, I think influencers, if that's a job, which has a questionable issue, but if you count influencers, then yes, they certainly would be counted as employed in one of our 2 main surveys.
Yeah.
But Dr. Hamermesh, when people hear job losses, they worry about a recession. Does this report suggest the economy may be slowing down?
It certainly suggests that, yes. And if, in fact, the labor force starts growing at the rate it usually grows, then we're going to see unemployment rising quite rapidly, I would think. So, yeah, it's worrisome in that sense, for sure.
So what exactly, staying on what Celeste asked, and I think even where she started too, my question is, what do these numbers actually tell us about the economy? When we get these numbers, and you get different interpretations of numbers, different kinds of numbers, what is it really telling us is happening in the landscape today? And is it any kind of forecaster?
It's not a bad forecaster, but again, you can't just look at month-to-month changes. If for no other reason than we saw this last month, they revised the last few months always in terms of the numbers from employers, and those revisions can be very substantial. I like to look at year-to-year changes. I realize that's not very exciting for prediction, but that's much more useful. And for that reason, yeah, I'm worried. I mean, we haven't seen job creation at all, no matter how we measure. And I'd be worried about that, especially we haven't seen any effects really yet of this war that's going on. And I don't think we've seen the full effects of the problems with supply chains and the problems with higher prices because of tariffs that have yet to be fully felt. So I think, yeah, we're in dangerous terrain right now, and these numbers suggest that.
So then what would you then equate for the driving the losses essentially? Is it companies cutting back because of economic uncertainty? Is it the deeper structural changes that we're seeing in our labor market? So what is essentially driving this trend that we're seeing year to year?
I think the issue is not losses in jobs so much as relative declines in job creation, as we said a few moments ago. What's driving that? Look, employers don't like uncertainty. Why do I want to invest in training new workers and spending the money trying to find them if I think the economy is going to go downhill very soon? So I think the uncertainty surrounding so many aspects of what's going on now is what's driving it. It's very hard to put your finger on that, but we know employers don't like uncertainty, especially when their hiring decisions are
Well,
an
I,
issue.
I think we have to look at artificial intelligence. I have a friend who worked for Amazon. They did a 15,000 person employee reduction, and it was all because of AI. So these tech companies are letting a lot of people go because of not knowing exactly what the future is going to hold with artificial intelligence.
And there's also interest rates and economic policy that we can also factor into that.
I think all those things matter. The AI is what everybody blames for any problem going on, okay? It's sort of the bogeyman hiding in the background. And, it may well be, and certainly uncertainty about AI causes employers to be hesitant, and maybe in specific cases where they can actually fire some people and substitute AI for 9 out of 10, yes, that matters. But in terms of the full effects of AI, again, it just started, but everybody wants to talk about it because it's out there visible, and we think it may cause huge problems. As yet, we don't really see huge problems.
One comment that I always used to hear was, if you want to be secure, get a job in healthcare or the funeral services, because we'll always need them. But this is even showing a stalling in healthcare hiring. What do you attribute to that, and should we be worried in that area?
Well, in fact, I mean, there's only one survey which has shown anything that we can find out about AI. And in fact, it is widely used and increasingly used in the healthcare business. I don't know if you watched the wonderful TV series, The Pit.
Oh,
Yes.
love the pit.
Yes, in the new season, the new woman who's been brought on to take over while our hero is on 3 months leave is talking at great length about instituting AI to help doctors report quickly and spend more time with patients. I saw this at my doctor last week. So yeah, AI can very well be important in the healthcare sector at all. It's not a matter of doctors doing less doctoring. It's a matter of doctors doing more doctoring and letting AI take over the clerical aspects of it.
As AI grows, then, I think back to when we had the growth of computers in workspace. And so we as a workforce seem to adapt and find the new area, like water will spread in and fill the empty gaps. How long does it take to adjust? If AI is taking over some jobs, how long do you think it is before the labor force adjusts to that and finds new places for personnel?
I like the computer, the PC analogy very much. That's exactly the right analogy. And it took quite a long time, I would say 10 years before even most of the effects, if not all, were felt by then. Again, this is going to be a very slow process as employers discover what it can be used for and as workers learn how to do it. So I wouldn't expect full effects of that to be felt for many years henceforth, at least 5, 7, maybe even more.
So then for the average worker listening right now, should they be worried about job security, or is the labor market still relatively strong? And then I have to ask, I immediately think, what is the flip side of that is what type of jobs or skills are becoming safer?
Well, I like to think being a university professor is safer, although given what's going on,
I don't know,
I'm
Dr.
retired.
Hamermesh.
Doesn't bother me none. But certainly, given what's going on, a lot of universities, they're getting rid of people too and not hiring new people. Are there any safe jobs? It's very hard to say. I mean, there are a lot of jobs where you think it couldn't be used. Certainly, uh, refuse collectors. My guess is AI is not going to take care of picking up the garbage you dispose of every day. On the other hand, parts of that industry, certainly, AI could be used to schedule things better. So it's very hard to see anything where it won't have an effect. It's just starting to play out now.
Couple of questions from YouTube. Noah Espinoza says, does the jobs number account for how many people are working two jobs or entrenched in the gig economy? And do you think that inflates the actual jobs reports?
First of all, roughly 7% of people work two jobs. In one of our two surveys does not account for somebody working two jobs. That's the what's called the payroll or employer survey. But the other one, the household survey, certainly does. And the fact that both of these numbers have been stagnant for the last year suggests that the two job issue really is not a problem. Same thing for the gig business. Indeed, evidence suggests gig economy is worth talking about, but we're talking maybe 1.5% of all jobs. So I don't think that's what's going on here.
Another YouTube comment from Alex says that weather was also a factor, a severe cold snap affecting multiple states, which disrupted hiring and operations.
Well, that'd be a good argument for why there was a slight drop in one of the surveys this past month. But it certainly doesn't explain the year-to-year absence of any change. So no, weather might be a 1 month thing, but it's hard to argue that it's affected or is responsible for the lack of growth in the last year.
When you talk about no lack of growth in the last year, I'm curious, are there sectors that have declined, others that have grown, and that they average out to no growth, or is it flat across the board?
No, it certainly, as is always, different across different industries. For example, federal employment fell substantially over the last 12 months, whereas healthcare employment did rise. I haven't looked exactly what else. I'm sure manufacturing has gone down a bit. And I expect real problems in manufacturing. A, if this war continues. B, by the time the full effects of the tariffs, if they stay on, are felt. But yes, it's always different across sectors.
So, Dr. Hamermesh, what should we be watching in the next couple of months that's going to tell us whether this is, a 1 month dip or we're looking at a bigger trend, even perhaps a shift in how Americans work?
Excellent question. I would watch for sure, not the month-to-month change, but what happens over perhaps the next 3 months, A. B, I would look at the employment level in both the surveys that are reported on the first Friday of the month, see if they track each other. And third, I would follow the other survey that doesn't get as much attention. This is called the JOLTS, Job Opening and Labor Turnover Series. It comes out in the middle of the month each month, and that shows hiring, firing, and job vacancies. I would keep track of that too. And all those three together, comparing them across a number of months, should tell you where we're going right now.
And in your experience, any kind of military conflict, does it usually increase or decrease jobs?
Again, if the military conflict is long enough and there's a lot of government spending to create military hardware, sure, it'll increase jobs. We saw that in the last major military conflict, namely Vietnam in 67, 68, 69. But it's an important thing. It's huge for the people involved, but as a fraction of what's going on economy-wide, it is a very, very small issue. So no effect that'll be discernible yet.
And Dr. Hamermesh, I understand. Obviously you're not a psychologist, but I do want to know if you were giving some advice to people that are in the workforce trying to navigate these uncertain times, even employers that have groups of employees also navigating the uncertainty of the job market. What would it be?
Two things. One, keep cool and don't pay attention to 1 month changes in anything. Two, I hope you invested in skills that'd be useful in a wide variety of contexts, and in particular in skills that might insulate you or at least allow you to use AI in a way that'll maintain your employment. So it's a twofold piece of advice.
Dr. Daniel Hamermesh is a professor emeritus of economics at the University of Texas. Dr. Hamermesh, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you all for having me.